Excellent. Let us now begin our descent into the rose-red silence of Petra, where shadows stretch across sandstone facadas and time whispers through canyon winds. Whispers of the Ancients, West Asia, Episode 14, Nabataean Kingdom c. 2nd century BCE to 106 CE, Petra, Arabia. 1. The rose-red veil of Petra. Carved not with hammers, but with silence, Petra rises from the womb of mountains, her blood-colored cliffs kissed by dawn's first breath. They called her Raku long before the Greeks named her Petra, a sanctuary of stone and shadow where tombs shimmer like desert mirages and water dances beneath sand. Hidden between walls of glowing sandstone, Petra was not just a city. It was a vision etched by a people who defied the wilderness. The Nabataeans, wanderers turned kings, smugglers turned architects, inhaled the dust of empire and exhaled a civilization sculpted by trade, faith and rain. This is their story. 2. From nomads to Nabataeans, they were once invisible. Desert dwellers moving with the wind, unwritten, uncounted, unnamed in the chronicles of kings. But by the 4th century BCE, Greek writers noticed something. Arab traders were growing wealthy and organized. These were the Nabataeans, an Arab people of uncertain origin, perhaps descended from Arameans or Edomites, blending cultures like colors in desert light. They mastered survival in the most hostile terrains. While empires fought over cities, the Nabataeans moved through canyons, carrying incense, myrrh, bitumen, and silk, always in control of the paths between. Their genius was in roots, not roots. Their kingdom would be born not of conquest but of connection. Point 3. Petra, the hidden capital. Imagine it. You squeeze through the narrow Sick, a gorge carved by water over millions of years, walls towering high, the sky a slender ribbon above. Then, like the gasp after silence, the treasury reveals itself. Alcasne, its ornate face glowing pink at sunrise, columns as delicate as lace, entablatures echoing Hellenistic grace. But Petra was more than this dune. It sprawled over 150 acres, homes, temples, cisterns, theaters, markets. Every stone bore witness to Nabataean skill, their fusion of Arab tradition, Greek style, and Roman scale. They carved mountains into mausoleums, sculpted gods into rock, and let water sing beneath their feet. Here in Petra, the desert was not a curse. It was a canvas. Have you ever visited Petra or dreamed of it? Which ancient wonder should we journey to next? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell to join our caravan of history lovers. For lords of the trade winds, they did not build empires with legions, but with caravans, hundreds of camels snaking across the Arabian sands. Laden with the luxuries of the known world, the Nabataeans sat at the crossroads of commerce, where spices from India, incense from Yemen, silks from China, and purple dye from Phoenicia passed through their hands. They controlled the incense route, that ancient artery of wealth connecting southern Arabia to the Mediterranean. Frankincense burned in Roman temples because Nabataeans carried it there. Myrrh anointed pharaohs because Nabataeans bridged the distance. They levied tolls, provided security, built rest stations, and in doing so, grew rich beyond imagination. Wealth poured into Petra like seasonal rain. And like rain, the Nabataeans channeled it wisely, efficiently, beautifully. 5. Architects of rain. In a desert where gods offer little water, the Nabataeans summoned it from stone. They mastered hydraulic engineering, more advanced than many empires before them. From the cliffs above Petra, they carved cisterns, aqueducts, reservoirs, directing every drop of precious rain into a city that should never have existed. Some cisterns held millions of liters, their walls lined with waterproof plaster. Hidden pipelines wound through Petra's rock. Runoff became survival. Drought became manageable. They built gardens in the desert, created public fountains, even luxury pools. Their water system was not just engineering, it was an act of civilized rebellion against the desert. While others feared the arid lands, the Nabataeans made them thrive. 6. Gods in the rock. Religion flowed through Petra like incense through the Sick, intangible. Perfumed, sacred, the Nabataeans were deeply spiritual but not rigid. They worshipped a pantheon of deities, rooted in Arab traditions but open to foreign influence. Their chief god was Dushara, lord of the Shara Mountains, often represented as a black stone block, his form unknowable, his power absolute. His consort, Al-Utsa, was a goddess of fertility, beauty, and the stars, akin to the Greco-Roman Aphrodite or Venus. Temples were hewn into cliffs. High places were built atop mountains, where priests offered blood to sky. They practiced rituals of incense, water, and sacrifice. Their tombs, often colossal, were sacred gateways, thresholds between worlds. Religion was not imposed from above. It rose from the rock itself. 7. A culture of synthesis. One might expect a desert kingdom to be isolated, but Petra was anything but provincial. Walk her ancient streets and see Hellenistic capitals atop Nabataean columns. Step into a tomb and find Egyptian motifs. Alongside Assyrian guardians, even the Aramaic-based Nabataean script would one day evolve into Arabic. They spoke multiple tongues, traded with dozens of cultures, and absorbed without being erased. This was not mimicry, it was mastery. The Nabataeans synthesized the world around them into something unmistakably their own. Their coins bore Greco-Roman designs, but their faces remained Arab. Their gods wore Roman robes, but their essence remained ancestral. To be Nabataean was to be a citizen of the crossroads, grounded in sand, but reaching far. Which ancient fusion of cultures amazes you most? Greek Egyptian, Roman Arab, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments and help us keep the echoes of the ancients alive. Subscribe and like to join us on this winding journey through time. 8. Kings without crowns. The Nabataeans were ruled not by despots, but by kings who balanced power with pragmatism. They left behind no ostentatious thrones, no golden scepters enshrined in pomp, but they built a kingdom that endured for centuries. In one of the world's harshest climates, the first known king, Aretazi, appears in Greek records from the 3rd century BCE, but it was under Aretas III c. 8760 to BCE that the Nabataeans would step boldly onto the world stage. He conquered Damascus, minted coins, and styled himself as Philhellene, lover of Greek culture. Later rulers, like Aretas IV 09 BCE to 40 CE, would reign during the life of Jesus. His name even appears in the New Testament as the father-in-law of Herod Antipas. These monarchs were diplomats as much as warriors, choosing trade over conquest and cultural integration over tyranny. They knew their strength was in position, not expansion, and they played the great empires Rome and Parthia with a desert kingdom's cunning. 9. Rome at the gates. Inevitably, the shadow of Rome crept eastward. That insatiable empire of iron roads and eagle standards could not ignore Petra's wealth. But the Nabataeans did not fall easily. They allied when they had to, resisted when they must. In 106 CE, under Emperor Trajan, Rome finally annexed Nabatea. Petra did not burn. It was not conquered in battle. It was absorbed peacefully, administratively into the Roman province of Arabia Petrea. Why no war? Because the Nabataeans, ever shrewd, saw the storm and stepped aside. Some say it was the death of the last king, Rabel II, that gave Rome its opportunity. Others say it was a transaction, a kingdom traded for status, with Petra gaining a new life as a Roman city. Either way, it was the end of independence, but not the end of Petra's glory. 10. Petra in Roman light. Under Roman rule, Petra flourished still. New structures arose, a colonnaded street fit for imperial parades, a theatre carved into rock, seating thousands, luxurious baths, markets, and temples. Yet the soul of Petra remained Nabataean. Even as Roman governors came and went, even as Latin echoes replaced Aramaic hymns, the sandstone city stood proud, its native style untouched at the core. The gods of Dushara and Al-Utsa shared space with Jupiter and Aphrodite. Stone, ever the memory keeper, preserved their mingled prayers. But the world around Petra was changing. Trade routes shifted, empires rose and fell. The city, once indispensable, was slowly being forgotten. Petra outlasted empires with wisdom and adaptability. Which do you think matters more in the rise of a civilization, military power, or cultural ingenuity? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and request future stories you want unearthed. We have seen the rise of a desert kingdom, the wealth of its caravans, the majesty of its monuments. But all things, even those carved in stone, must one day erode. Of course! Let us now walk the final passages of Petra's saga through silence, sand, and the slow fading of a once radiant realm. 11. The winds of forgetting. Petra did not fall to sword or siege. It faded gently, sorrowfully like incense on the breeze. By the 3rd century CE, the trade routes that had once sustained her, those arterial lifelines of incense and silk, were redirected. The Roman world shifted toward Palmyra, then to the coastal ports. Caravans dwindled, and with them, Petra's lifeblood. Earthquakes came. Most devastating was the tremor of 363 CE, which shattered much of the city's infrastructure, its aqueducts, its temples, its grand facades. The rose-red city cracked, and her walls whispered their last. Petra was still inhabited, but only barely. She became a ghost of herself, a shadow of a once mighty queen of trade. By the time Islamic forces swept through Arabia, Petra was already fading from memory, and soon the world forgot her name. Point 12. Whispers in the dust. For over 1,000 years, Petra lay hidden from the eyes of the West, known only to the Bedouin tribes who guarded her secrets. A city of myth, a whisper in ancient texts, a dream buried beneath red dust and time. Then, in 1812, a young Swiss explorer named Johann Ludwig Burckhardt heard tales of a lost city in the cliffs. Disguised as a Muslim scholar, he persuaded a guide to take him into the valley. And there it was, the Kosner, blazing in the midday sun, unmoved by centuries of absence. Burckhardt had awakened a sleeping goddess. Petra was rediscovered, and the world marveled. 13. The Eternal Stone. Today, Petra stands not just as a relic, but as a monument to endurance. The Nabataeans may have vanished. Their language is no longer spoken. Their gods lie silent beneath the sandstone sky, but their vision, their harmony with the harshness of nature, and their legacy of artistry and commerce, these things remain. Petra's rose-red walls still catch fire each dusk. Her tombs still whisper names long unspoken. Her stairways to forgotten temples still rise through rock and silence. UNESCO named her a World Heritage Site. Modern Jordan embraces her as a national symbol. Millions visit, yet few truly hear the ancient breath within those winding canyons. 14. A kingdom of echoes. What remains of the Nabataeans? Not empires, not conquests, but stone trade, tolerance, survival. They remind us that greatness does not always roar. Sometimes it hums quietly in carved walls. It flows with water in stone channels. It glows in the soft blush of evening on a desert city. Their empire is gone, but their essence lives in Petra, in the awe of each traveler who rounds the final curve of the sick and beholds the Kosner bathed in light. What would you carve into the walls of time? What legacy would you leave behind in stone or story? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, like, subscribe, and join us for the next whisper from the past.